Hi everyone, today I want to talk about my beautiful bandsaw, one of my most important and beautiful tools in my workshop, and talking about how to tune and calibrate different parts and knowing the different parts of this tool to have a very precise cut on our valuable woods. This is a local made bandsaw made in Iran, Isfahan, a very precise bandsaw, but doesn't have some kind of fancy options like the angle table, but it's a very good uh, bandsaw. If I open the cover, the door, you can see the wheels here, and the size of the wheel in the bandsaw shows us, and we can name the bandsaw based on the wheel size. And in this case, this is a 40 centimeter wheel bandsaw, so we call it the bandsaw number 40. My bandsaw works with 1.5 horsepower electromotor. It is totally fine for this size of bandsaw, but it could be like 2 horsepower. It gives us more power. I haven't got any problem with cutting with this and horsepower of this motor yet. So the first and most important adjustment that we have on this bandsaw is this upper wheel. It can be here, in some bandsaws it's down here. It moves the upper wheel up and down, so we can tighten the blade with this adjustment. Also, you can see a kind of a strap that I use on the bandsaw wheels. It helps us to make a softer space for the blade to live more and works finer. Also, it reduces the noises of this tool. This part also is so important in the bandsaw. So it's adjustable. We can keep it close as we want to the cut. So it depends on the thickness that we want to cut. It should be close to the cutting space because it adjusts and hold the blade in the place for us. And it has a bearing here that help and keep the blade not to go way back and fall off from the wheel. Also, these two pieces of wood can adjust and keep the blade in the place for me. Some bandsaws have two bearing like this at the sides of the blades. Also, some bandsaws have this kind of adjustment, this kind of holder under the table of the bandsaw. Mine doesn't have, but if you can adjust and if you can have that one, you can have a more precise cut. Also, we have another adjustment here that helps us to fix. If I open that, like loosen the wheel here, and after we adjust the wheel, we can fix it and keep it in the place and hold the wheel more and keep it better. You can see another adjustment in my bandsaw. This screw, when I tighten or loosen this screw, I can change the angle of this upper wheel. With the adjusting of this screw and this adjustment, I can hold and place the blade at the edge of the wheel or moving inside. There are some strategies about the blade placement on the wheel. Some woodworkers said that we have to place the blade at the center of the wheel. Some said we need to keep it a little bit outer in the front to see the teeth from the front part of the wheel. And some makers said that we need to keep the teeth at the center of the wheel to help us keep the blade when we cut the wood, not to rotate or change the angle of the blade. Based on my experience, it depends on your kind of cutting, depends on your experience, and all of these strategies could work actually. Also, under the table, you can see I designed some kind of vacuum pipe here. I just cut some piece of pipe and hold it in this place. And when the blade is inside, we can use the vacuum to collect the dust when we're cutting the wood. Let's talk about the blade for this bandsaw. I have different type of blades here. My bandsaw wheel is 2 centimeter wide, so the wider blade that I can use for my bandsaw is this one. Also, this one I have, and the very uh, actually thin one here, the less widest blade that I have for shaping cuts. Also, the teeth have a different sizes as you see in the video, and I want to talk about the detail here that we have some kind of, if I can show you in the video, we can have we have some kind of left and right on this blade, so the blades are not in the raw. So we have some teeth, one left and one right here, and it makes us some space when we cut the wood. But this left and right makes some kind of lines on the wood that we don't want it, but we will remove it with some other tools. We cannot make this blade completely flat. We can, but if we do this, we need to tune and adjust our tool very precise in cut, because this left and right makes a space in the wood to cut easier and more precise for us. But when we remove it, when we completely flatten the blade, we need a very more precise tool to cut and very more precise fence to adjust on the tool. So let's put the blade on and see how it works. I just put the blade on the wheel. I loosen this part here on the back and loosen this wheel to shift the wheel down and give me the space to put the blade on. So I put the blade on the first wheel, adjust it with the down wheel, and then I can tighten the wheel. Now it's good. Then I can give it a little bit of space to hold to stay in a good place. Then I tighten this back adjustment. Then I start moving and rotating the blade to see where the blade stops. And then I can adjust this screw to move a blade more inside or more front. I see everything is right now is nice here. Now I can carefully turn it on just for seconds to see where the blade stops. So I think it's completely fine. The blade stops here. I can see some teeth outer than the wheel, but I don't have a problem with this kind of adjustment. The down wheel also is good. And how tighten the blade must be, it depends on the length of the blade. The wider and the bigger your bandsaw is, it's a kind of feeling that you have to feel it after sometimes, that understand that how tighten and how tight your blade is. But it must not to move that much when you tighten your blade. Also, every time that you don't want to use it, when you don't want to work with your bandsaw, you must loosen your blade, because after some times and you turn off your tool and left your tool, after sometimes you can see some very tiny cracks on the blade, and it is a dangerous thing to do. So uh, please loosen your blade every time you finish your job. So let's have a test cut to see everything is in the place. I close the cover for the safety. Please always use the closed cover when you want to cut. I also will connect the vacuum to the blade, and after that I will talking about the fence and how to adjust the table for the precise cut. So everything is good. Now I tested the blade. It stays in a very good place. The bearing is not actually engaged right now. Uh, some makers say that the blade in a normal state must not be engaged. So when you force the blade with the wood and you want to cut, the blade stick to the bearing, and with the help of the bearing it moves into place. But when it's stay in normal place, when you don't cut, the bearing and the backside must not be engaged. And I forgot to say that you should not force the wood that much. So let the wood work itself, cut itself. So you just adjust and hold the wood in the place and slowly let the blade to cut. And it depends on how sharp your blade is. It can be more fast or a slower cut you can have on your wood. So there is just one problem that I have with my bandsaw is that the table is very small, and sometimes I have some bigger piece of woods like this one that I want to cut. It has a fence to help me cutting the wood, but it's small, and because I want to have more control on cutting the wood, I designed actually I add this piece of MDF that I cut. I can pass it through the blade and I can fix it with two screws on the table to make the table longer, and I can have more control on cutting the woods. Also, I designed this piece, this kind of fence that I can fix it with some clamps here that I can have, for example, let's see, I can have a very, very precise guiding fence here to control cutting on the woods. And this is completely 90 degree, perfect 90 degree, that I can have a very precise cut with my blade. Now I set my fence for 3.5 millimeter thickness for cutting the ribs. Maybe a little bit changes and a little bit errors and distortion I will have when I cut because of the blade and everything. I just want to have a test cut, and before that we want to be sure that we have a very completely perfect 90 degree on our wood, because this machine, when we want to working with the bandsaw, we need a totally perfect 90 degree angle to have a very precise cut on our wood. So let's see how it cuts. So the cutting is finished. I will check the thickness. It's exactly 3.5. In one side it's a little bit more, maybe the blade is not perfect or the angle is not perfectly 90, but it's totally fine because I want to have a sanding on both sides of this rib later to make it around 3.133 millimeter thickness at the end. And I'm completely satisfied with cutting the board with this machine, but the blade also is so sharp, so you need to keep the blade always sharp to have a very best cutting experience. So thank you for watching this video. I hope I could deliver some good information, helpful information for you.